We now have Denmark online as well. Hasse Schneidermann from the organization Fredsministerium. Hasse, are you ready to talk about the situation in Denmark regarding ministries or departments for peace?
Yes, I do think I am, finally. Thank you for having me on this session, giving me the opportunity to speak from Denmark. I enjoyed Lisa's presentation as far as I could hear it, and I do believe that if you think about the situation in Denmark regarding the issue of peace ministry in Denmark, even though we have that as the main goal of our organization, we have not been able to put that on the Danish agenda for 10 years. And that has of course to do with the balance of strength in our country. Only one party had that on the agenda, and that party is now more or less diminishing, vanishing from the earth. So I do believe that if we have any chance to put this on the agenda, it must be in a Nordic context. And this is why I think it's very important that we do today speak as Nordic cooperation for peace and sustainable development, because we think that a ministry of peace or whatever would be a very important tool to shift the balance on this issue. We have had last year 2 major meetings on this issue, one with Nordic friends. Can I bore you 10 minutes with the situation in Denmark? I would be glad to do so. Thank you. Today, it is 2 days before the UN Day of Living Together in Peace. I'm sorry to say that many people and governments in the world today are not. We thought that from a Danish point of view, that the withdrawal from Afghanistan and the very effective measurements on pandemic would give us a chance to have a window of opportunities in Denmark to reflect on what the next steps in Danish security policy could be, as the social democratic government here launched a new value-based security policy. But this, of course, this was put to an end with the war. Now I will go through a few lines of what is actually happening in Denmark these days and what we are up against in the peace movement in Denmark. And then I will try to say some of the things that is part of a sustainable security policy, if I may. It will take me 15 minutes, and I think, let's see, I've written most of it down because I'm a bit feverish today. So let's see how things go. The most important part of this, what I'm going to say, is that we are very preoccupied with avoiding nuclear war. This is the overriding theme in many discussions that we have these days. And of course, we are heading in Denmark a tsunami of rearmament, and I'll go through that in a moment. And if you to say from start, what we think is the most important part of sustainable development, security development, is of course the connection between the climate, the environment, and the military emissions and money spent for military purposes that could be spent on UN SDG goals. The next is, of course, common security introduced to us these days by the Parliament Institute, and last not least, the prohibition of nuclear war. This is what we are preoccupied with. Now, within a few weeks after the Russian invasion in Ukraine, very large majority in our parliament passed a national compromise on Danish security policy, which means that what we are up against now is that we, besides still supplies, military arms supplies for Ukraine, army and militias, we have, the parliament has decided to use 18 billion more per year for military military expenditures fully phased in 2033, which is of course meeting the NATO requirements for the 2% GDP. Also, we are heading a referendum the 1st of June for these parties to get rid of the reservation in Europe, the defense reservation, the Danish defense reservation in European Union that we have had since 1993. So we can be part of the military dimension of European Union. And of course, as you know, we already have a signed agreement with the United States on deployment of soldiers and military equipment in Denmark, like the one we just heard about from Norway. Only 3 parties in the parliament, the right-wing party, Danish People's Party, and the Nye Borgerlige, and the left-wing party, Red Green Alliance, are against lifting the defense reservation. And only one party, the Red Green Alliance, is against raising money for NATO. And as I speak, they have a discussion of the future policies on Europe and NATO on their annual meeting as we speak. So this means that the Danish peace movement has no or very few friends or allies in the political parties and in parliament these days. This also means that the balanced power between peace advocacy and the hawks in Danish security policy has shifted even further. We are in a very strategic defensive, you may say, and we have to look for tactical moves that can bring us forward. Happily, I have to say that the war and the threat of using of nuclear weapons has also meant that a few very powerful new organizations has seen the light of day, and we are hoping to gain momentum with those. So, am I boring you? Please not. Okay, I'm so pleased. Now, to avoid nuclear war and stop this war, we think that it's important in Denmark, at least, that the Russian attack on Ukraine was a clear violation on the UN Charter and has been condemned strongly also from peace movement in Denmark. Although the responsibility for the war lies entirely with the Russian government, we should not forget that NATO's gradual enlargement in Eastern Europe without security guarantees for the Russians has contributed to this uncertainty, as we hold, at least we hold the Western world responsible for the crisis with Russia by running away from promises given to the Russian government. We are trying as we can to put ourselves in the middle of this conflict going on between the great powers, and the specific threat by Russian governments to use nuclear weapons is also, of course, a clear violation of UN treaties, and we have also condemned that. Now, we do fear now that the great powers rivalry, what is that? Yes, the word, will escalate into a third World War also fought with nuclear weapons, and this is what therefore we call on our own government and all governments to exercise restraint. First of all, we argue that we should send no more weapon to the Ukrainians. As we see it, we are on a turning point where it is not the Ukrainians who are now defending themselves but striking back, and we think that more weapons will be support for the United States and NATO's aggression against Russia per deputy or proxy war, whatever you call that. I think I'll skip the next few lines to go to what is part of developing what we have been preoccupied with the last many years is, of course, since 2013 we have, with NOAA, the Danish brand of Friends of Earth, have jointly investigated the link between climate change, conflicts and wars, and the economic and political power systems behind it. You'll find the lecture on our website. And we think that the UN 17 sustainable goals are strong visions to be part of the future and key elements caring for people and the globe. How climate change can worsen ongoing conflicts that can lead to war is widely understood, I think, but few people talk about how military-industrial complex emits CO2 and thus worsen the climate crisis. This is to you, I think I can see who is part of this is common knowledge. So I think this is very important that we do think of this as a key point to Nordic development security policy, because, as you know, there is a certain policy actions going on climate, but well, never mind. The Swedish Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, has measured world's total military expenditures up against the UN SDGs since it was agreed. And they argue that only a few percent, I think it's 10% of the military expenditures can reduce hunger and education problems in the world. And of course, when we speak to young people in our country, they do not understand why these billions of dollars are used for something that is not giving anyone any security at all. And this is our point of view. I know that what we are up against is, of course, they would argue that they are taking care of the security. Our countries must have strong climate efforts, and we must shift the balance from military expenditures to the development goals. Another thing in creating Nordic non-military sustainable security policy is, of course, common security. This is the other part that I would like to. In February, Secretary General of Olof Palme Center in Stockholm, Anna Sundström, opened our annual meeting by talking to us all about the 40 years since the Olof Palme Commission and the relevance of the principles on the world today. I think this is very important that we argue that no matter what happens, we have a prolonged cold or warm war and another with Russian and now being not part of the Europe anymore, we must think of this principle as very important to us. According to this, security is not achieved through unilateral national defense efforts, but in confrontations with your counterpart, but of course with them. People can only feel safe when their counterparts feel safe as well. That goes without saying. When I look at your faces here. Another part of what we are preoccupied with in the Fredsministerium in Denmark is we have taken steps to organize a popular corporation called Ban Nuclear Weapons, ICAN in Denmark, to inform about the danger of nuclear weapons and work for Danish accession to the UN Treaty of Prohibition. I don't think I have to go into what this prohibition is about, but these days we are working very hard. I mean, the Danish government has turned the back on this for ages, but we are now working very hard, at least to bring the government to the state party meetings in June as observers, and arguing that parliamentarians from Denmark do the same. The Danish government and the majority of the Folketing is willing to take the issue of nuclear weapon disarmament to the NTP, the proliferation treaty in August, the 10th of August, the 10th review conference. But these days, I do not think that it will be that even the Danish government and everybody else will be able to persuade the Russians and the United States to take steps as we would like to. But therefore, I think we are proposing the Danish government to ask them at least to revive the strategic dialogue on nuclear stability, and also maybe work for a resolution condemning with references to the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of nuclear weapons or nuclear wars.
We would need you to, you have 1 minute more to.
Yes, okay, God, well, yes, last. We have, during the war, been very keen on Nordic cooperation in peace issues. We have been in Diggerfors on the Nordic talks, festivals in Simrishamn, and now for 2 years the Friends of Not Enemies conferences in Oslo. And there last year we suggested that we make an effort to cooperate with a Nordic Peace Council to build capacity and build bridges to relevant Nordic and Arctic advisory and decision-making bodies. And I will just end my speech to you now, that's saying that we have had a few development meetings on a Nordic Peace Alliance as part of the vision of peace of Nordic Europe. And now I'm of course very interested in what this could bring about on these issues, because I understand that now Finland and Sweden is on their way to be part of members of NATO. So I'm very eager to find out what issues this Nordic Peace Alliance would, as it emerges, and maybe also see the light of day, what issues would be the most important things to work together on peace and sustainable development. Thank you very much for listening.